Hey folks, what's going on? Hope everyone's good tonight. Alright, here we are, another lockdown video. Probably will be the last one, I hope. Life is starting to get back a little bit to normal. I've now gone back to work full time, and it feels a little strange to be working full time again. Glad to, but it feels odd. Let's just put it this way. So my life is starting to come back to normal little by little. When I come home from work, of course, lockdown begins again, and I'm stuck at home just like everybody else. But I was thinking about this while I was relaxing one day. Let's say lockdown ends tomorrow. Let's just imagine this. It ends tomorrow, right? Now vinyl stores are open for business, open to the public. You can go and dig, finally, after a month or so of sitting home. My question is, the day these stores open, do you immediately go the day they open and start digging because you're jonesing to hit the vinyl store? Or are you a little nervous and you'll wait a week or two just to see how things go? If things are really okay, and then you'll go digging. I mean, because you gotta think about it. These are records. We're digging for records, and people have touched them, and then they walked away. Then here you come seconds later or a minute later, and now you're touching the exact same thing again. Unless you're gonna dig with the mask and the gloves and carry a little bottle of sanitizer in your back pocket. How are you gonna go about it? I'm just thinking, because I was thinking, like, we can't go straight back to normal. We're going to be a little timid, a little cautious at first, I would think. And, I mean, that'll probably linger for a long time. So I would imagine that first day of digging, it's either going to be crowded and everyone's just dying to get out of their houses, or maybe not as crowded as we think. People might be a little timid at first. I don't know. This is a question. What are you going to do when lockdown ends and you can just go back to normal life? Are you going to go running straight to it, or are you going to do it in baby steps? Either vinyl digging or eating at a restaurant, going to a movie theater, anything. I'm just curious how people feel about that. All right. Well, I'm still in lockdown, so here's some of the records I've been listening to. I'm going to try to go through them fast. This is a classic right here. Big Chair songs from the Big Chair from Tears for Fears. Mo-Fi Pressing. Of course, it's Mo-Fi, so it sounds great. I mean, the mix on this is just incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. I mean, I loved these songs to begin with. Then suddenly you hear this pressing of the record, the Mo-Fi pressing, and it's like hearing the whole album for the first time. I mean, I've had this for a couple of years, but I'm just blown away every time I listen to this particular pressing of Big Chair. It's amazing. I mean, we all know the classic songs on here. But Working Hours sounds really good on this. So does Mother's Talk, sorry. And the very last song called Listen, because it has all these sound effects and layers of things in the background, the right and left ear, and it sounds, with this pressing, it makes that song sound great, which closes the album. It's such a good listen, I never get tired of that record. This one I was glad to revisit. I bought it somewhat recently, but it's nice to listen to it again. It's Diva from Annie Lennox. She has such a great voice, and this album really shows it off. Her voice, that is, just beautifully. I absolutely love this album. I love her voice. The very last song on side one, which is called Cold, kind of a bluesy ballad song. Oh! Her voice is so smooth on it. That's the one I kept listening to again and again and again. That's that one song. I listen to the whole record, but Cold has always been my favorite. It's worth Walking on Glass and Why. Well, basically all of side one, basically all of the album. It's just so good. So good. And the woman has just an amazing voice. There's no denying it. And, this is the VC. We all know. Everybody has great taste in the VC, so we all know about her. All right, we're going to stay in the kind of 80s synth pop artist thing. OMD, an album called The Punishment of Luxury. It's their last full studio record. And love listening to this. Love listening to this. I actually caught this tour in San Francisco. And I'll show you how new the tour was when they were singing the very first song on here, which is The Punishment of Luxury. Lead singer was actually had the lyrics printed on a piece of paper, and he was just singing it like that. And you could kind of see his hand shake a little bit as he was reading the lyrics. I think they might have rehearsed 1 or 2 times before that show in San Francisco. It was their first show of the tour, and you could tell they were so nervous to play the old songs, the new songs off of this album. But this is a great album, really good album. Isotype is really good on here. What Have We Done? I mean, of course they were the singles, but such good songs. English Electric came out a couple of years ago, and it was real fun to revisit this album. I really dug it. It made me want to dig out my favorite all-time album from them, which is Architecture and Morality. This came out in the early 80s, and this one I'll take out because it is the die-cut cover. You see, and a nice pressing of it, which I believe is the UK pressing. So this is my favorite album to listen to from OMD. And not just one song or 2 songs or the Joan of Arc songs or Souvenir. I like listening to the whole album. The whole album is great, but particularly the very last song on this album, last song on side 2, the beginning and the end. It's a slow, melodic song, real chilled. And it just ends with something beautiful, I guess you could say, because there's a lot of industrial distorted noises and cool arrangements on this album, so it's nice that they ended on a gorgeous song like the beginning and the end. When I was spinning that one, like the song "Cold" from Any Lennox, I kept playing that one song over and over. I think I listened to it like 4 or 5 times. I mean, I listened to the whole album entirely. When I got to the last track, I just kept repeating it. That's how much I love that song. It's a great song, and it's a great album closer, but the whole record itself is classic. I love that album. Another classic 80s synth-pop band is Depeche Mode, and of course the album is Violator. My band does enjoy the silence from this album, and it's one of my favorite songs to play in bars, back when we used to do that. Who knows when we'll do that again, but I mean, this is the repress of it. It's not an original pressing. The reissue. And there's a picture of the band and a hot chick. Great album. Everybody knows the song Personal Jesus. Of course, that's a classic. But the whole record is top notch. But I love listening to Enjoy the Silence because, number one, I love the song. It's a great song, but because my band covers it, it makes it even more fun to listen to, and I keep forgetting which way is up with this one. Really great record. Like I said, this is a reissue. I think it was a remastering as well. It sounds really good. The mix is fantastic on my turntable. Definitely will get you moving, especially the song Personal Jesus. My God, does that come blasting out of the speakers. It just sounds great. Yeah, I wish I was more into this album when it was brand new. I remember when this album came out, I did like the song Personal Jesus when it first came out. I was a fan of the song when it was new. But I was just getting into progressive rock and hard rock at that time. I mean, there are certain songs that were capturing my ear back then, and Personal Jesus is one of them. I wish I was more into this album when it was brand new. When it was brand new, I wish I was all over this record. I wasn't. I discovered it much later and realized, wow. Well, I mean, it's better late than never, of course, but I wish I had been there when it was new. That would have been cool days. I was with this album when it was new, and I loved it. Smithereens, 11. This is a great record. This album is this is an enjoyable listen. The whole thing, all the songs on side 1 and 2. Are fantastic. The big single on here was A Girl Like You. I remember I loved the video. The music video I thought was great. I remember when the Smithereens appeared on Saturday Night Live and played that song as well as the blues before and after, which is the second song on side one. Oh, this is a good album. There's a song here called Blue Period, with backing vocals from Belinda Carlisle, and you can, when her voice comes in the chorus, oh my God, do you notice it? This is such a good album. I never get tired of it. I love spinning it. My band covers Girl Like You. We don't play it every gig. On certain gigs we do. When the crowd's really into it, we'll throw that one out there. They were such a good band. I mean, they still are. Unfortunately, the singer passed away, but I think the remaining members still play whenever they get a chance. Well, obviously they're not playing now, but I remember they were still doing shows as a tribute to their singer, and it was sad when he passed away. And I have, like I said, I have a few of their albums, and I cherish them. They're great albums, and this was, I'll say it again, this was a great band, Smithereens. I'll always be a fan. And okay, here's another one that brings back memories. Going to Bunnymen. This is self-titled. I remember this came out in 1987. I was still in high school. I was in 11th grade, and I had some friends that were really into this band, and a couple of guy friends, and they were in the band so much they looked a lot like their lead singer. I mean, they would wear their hair like that. This is back in '87. You know, I'm pretty much in a ghetto high school. It's all black and Latino kids. So if someone shows up to high school looking like that back in '87, we just kind of like, what the hell? Because it was all early days of hip hop and hard rock then. But I remember I had friends that just swore by this band and The Cure and Depeche Mode. And I did like that music, but it didn't hook me as much. And I remember this particular album being real popular with those friends that liked this kind of music. And I remember seeing the videos on MTV, and it made me wish I had the album back then. I'm sure I would have loved it back then. I guess as we get older, our tastes either mature or they just change. Or we discover things that we really weren't into in the past. And this was one of them. I mean, this is a fun album to spin. I like this album. I really love every song on it. It's an enjoyable listen, and I really wish I was more into them when I was 17. I think I would have loved this record more then. But oh well, I still have memories of Lips Like Sugar, the music video. I always thought that was a cool song. It is a cool song. I dig it so much. This one, I do remember this band, and I was around to appreciate them. It's Romeo Void. Benefactor is the name of the album. This is another great listen. This is an album I've had for a long time. And when I first joined the VC, I think I bought this album. And I recently started spinning it again. And I was like, man, why did I let this sit on the shelf for so long? This is such a good album. It has the song Never Say Never. It's like the big song on it, but the whole record is so good. So good. And my memories of this band is VH1 used to have a show called Bands Reunited, and they did pull the original members of Romeo Void back together, and they did one reunion show, which was shown on the TV show. And that was so cool to watch because you could tell they still liked each other. They were still friends. They still got along. They still enjoyed playing live music. Unfortunately, the saxophone player of this band, though he was there for the sit-down of everyone seeing each other again and talking and going over old stories and memories, unfortunately, he wasn't able to play with the band because he suffered hearing loss or damage to his hearing and couldn't play his instrument anymore. He was a saxophone player. So when the band reunited, he had to go in a separate room with headphones for they can give a mix that would be good for his hearing. And he had to sit there and just relive the reunion, watching a TV monitor, headphones of the performance. He was there in spirit. Unfortunately, he wasn't there on stage. And I kind of felt bad for him because he was dying to get on the stage with his old band, and because of his hearing loss, he couldn't. I felt bad for him. But that was one of my favorite episodes of that TV show. It's on YouTube if you want to look it up. Bands reunited, Romeo Void. So cool how they got all the original members together. That was pretty cool. All right, we're gonna get into the area of hard rock / prog or metal prog. Dream Theater Awake. My God, this is a great record. Now this one I remember when it came out. I was a big fan of the album before that, which was Images and Words. They were my new band. They were like a mixture of Metallica and Genesis. So that's what I loved about that Images and Words album so much. So when this one came out, I was real excited. And this album did not disappoint when it first came out. I bought it on CD when it first came out, and man, I loved it. Gatefold just shows the lyrics. And there's a band picture. There's the back, and there's the band picture. Everything I liked about Images and Words carries over to this album, plus a lot heavier and chunkier. That's the impression I got when I listened to it. The opening drum fill for 6 o'clock, so good. Erotomania and Voices and the Silent Man, they all run together in one big song. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And this pressing of the album is the colored version. So colored vinyl there, and a really nice design as well. It really looks beautiful. I love Space. This is a 2-record set, but the same labels and same design on the other record. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm really glad I got this pressing of it. I also got it on black vinyl too, but this is my fancy copy that I like to spin. And it's such an enjoyable record. I think I was still in my 20s when this album came out. Yeah, I was, and still in my 20s when this record came out, and I listened to this CD to death when I first bought it on CD. I was obsessed with this album. I loved this record, and that really started me just being obsessed with the band. I mean, Images and Words kind of captured my attention, and then this album just made me obsess over the band. Absolutely obsessed over the band, so it's always a dear record to me. Very close to me. Another heavy metal 80s act is Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. Everybody likes Number of the Beast, and that is a killer album. I still think this is my favorite Iron Maiden record. I love this album. I even love the cover. The cover is fantastic. In the back cover, it has all these references, visual references to songs, Maiden songs. Fantastic album. Fantastic album. My favorite song on here is Wasted Years. Though that was the single and it had the video, it is a great song. It's a great song. I'll never get tired of Wasted Years. It's just, oh my God, it's just a great song. Great song. Heaven Can Wait is also, to me, my second favorite song on here. I've always loved that song, and this is just a really brilliant record. Stranger in a Strange Land, that's another great song as well. But the whole album is good. The whole album is good, and I should actually get the remastered CD of this. That would probably be a great listen. But having the vinyl is great. I love this vinyl record. I think this one has a custom label, if I remember right. Oh yeah, and it's a cool looking one too. So there's a custom label for it. Absolutely. If it's not my favorite, it's one of my favorite Maiden albums, like I said. I mean, there's a lot of them I like to listen to. Number of the Beast, Seventh Son. Oh, there's just so many good stuff on there. Maiden, I love collecting Maiden records. They're so much fun to collect, as well as their singles, and they're hard to come by in good condition, but when you do, I grab them because so good. Now we all know I'm obsessed with Marillion. I've made that pretty obvious on a lot of videos. I'll just show one Marillion album. I think that's all I have in the pile, just to verify. Yeah. Okay. The Thieving Magpie, which is basically a 2-album live recording, and it covers a lot of the areas of the Fish era in Marillion, from the songs from the first album all the way to Clutching at Straws, which is the last album that featured Fish as the singer. And I like the album sleeves because it goes to the different albums, and you see photos from that era of the album. So it's an enjoyable set to listen to. Of course, the CD version of this contains more songs, but it is enjoyable vinyl to have in your collection. I absolutely love spinning this set, and it had been a while since I've done it. It starts off with Schlantema. I believe that's how you say it. I don't know. I might be mispronouncing it. And that's one of my favorite songs from the Fish era, though I have so many favorite songs from the Fish era. But Schlantema is definitely one of them. And that's what kicks this live set off. And it's a great live recording of it. And I always love the artwork on these albums. They always look so good. Love the artwork. And this is a great live recording. It sounds, it's mixed really well. Well packaged, and a must for any Marillion fan, especially of the Fish era. A great collection of songs on here. The live version of Sugar Mice is really nice on here too. And of course they have the whole side one of Misplaced Childhood. That's just incredible to listen to. A great live record. Well, I'm obsessed with Genesis as always, so of course I'm going to listen to some Genesis, and I'm even going to listen to some old school Genesis. Lo-fi pressing of Trick of the Tail. Without a doubt, my favorite Genesis studio album. Though a lot of the Gabriel ones come very close, I just love this album to death. It is the reason why I love the band. Don't get me wrong, I love those Peter Gabriel songs. I love Supper's Ready and Dance with the Moonlit Night, Cinema Show, Musical Box. Of course, I love all those songs, but this record just does it for me. Especially this pressing of it, the Mo-Fi pressing. I got so many pressings of this album. More than one person should have. I'm sure someone out there in VC land tops me, but I got too many pressings of this album on vinyl, and this is just one of them. So when I listen to this, if I'm in the mood for this album and listen to it on vinyl, then I got to figure out, well, which pressing is it? Is it going to be the Mo-Fi pressing? Is it going to be the Japanese pressing? The German pressing? Very rarely do I vote on the American pressing, but it's a great album. I love listening to ripples on this pressing because they got the mix so right, and you hear so many things, all those 12-string guitars, and the tambourines and the faint keyboards. It just sounds gorgeous, as well as the song Entangled. The mix on here is brilliant, and it's a pleasure to spin this. As well as this album. The Lamb. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This is a very close number 2 of favorite Genesis albums. The studio albums, I should say. There is so much variety on this 2-record set. It's... you really go on a voyage when you listen to this record. I mean, they really take you on a journey, which is why I love to listen to this album so much. And I usually have to listen to the whole thing. I don't really jump around too much on this album. I'm a big fan of listening to the whole thing. And it's on the Charisma label. So that's one side, and then of course the side is the shot of real break into the glass. I gotta find out which side is up. There we go. So I love it for those labels. Absolutely beautiful. Too many great songs to mention on here. They're in there. If you listen to this, you know your favorites. I like the Lamia because I like Hackett's solo at the end, or guitar lead. It sounds so amazing. His guitar lead at the end of the song The Lamia and the song Anyways. Well, I like the song. There's no big guitar. Well, there's a guitar lead in the middle of it. But Lamia is probably my favorite one to listen to because of that nice solo Steve Hackett does at the end of the song. Oh, beautiful. And the song Anyways, because the intro piano sounds so amazing by Tony Banks. And I bought this album used a few years ago, and it came with a surprise inside. Someone threw this Genesis comic book inside the records. And I was so thrilled when I saw this. Let me see if I can. It just talks about the early history of the band. And I'm see if I can find a cool picture. There it is. Where you see Peter Gabriel dressed up as the Slipper Man. This is just neat to have along with the record. It's so cool to have that. Oh, here we go. This is the one I was looking for. This is the picture I was looking for. Where they're going over Gabriel dressing up in costumes during the shows to portray characters from the music. And it's just, So I was really surprised to find this in there when I first bought this album used quite a few years ago, and to see that slipped in there was a nice little extra surprise, which you can only get when you're digging for used records. You're not going to see that in any reissues. I mean, sometimes that'll happen. I'll go in there and someone will slip a 45 in my record. You get these little surprises in there, or if it's an old school pressing, you'll get the merch order form. There's cool stuff like that. I like that that's what's fun about collecting used records. Every now and then you'll get one of those kind of surprises, and that was a really good surprise for this. It makes this copy of this album extra special to own. And knowing that comic is in there, when I get in the mood for the Lamb and want to reach for this pressing of it, knowing that comic is in there, I can kind of go through it while the music's playing. It's a cool thing. All right, jump off of Genesis for a while. I'm also a big Porcupine Tree head, so Dead Wing is one of my favorite records from them. This is such a great album. I think this was the first Porcupine Tree album I bought the day it was released. Bought it on CD back in the day. And now I got the reissue on vinyl. It's on clear vinyl, which I'll show you in a bit. There's the gatefold. This is a brilliant record. Absolutely brilliant. And this is probably my favorite picture on the inner sleeve. And look at that. That is so cool. We've seen that one. And like I said, it's on clear vinyl. So, a really nice pressing of the album. I'm assuming it's remastered. Good mix on it. Really good mix on it. Lazarus is still my favorite song on here. That song hooked me instantly when I first heard it, and it forever is still my favorite Porcupine Tree song. But of course, Arriving Somewhere But Not Here is probably the best song on the album, but my personal favorite is Lazarus, because I think that's just a gorgeous song. And I've seen Steven Wilson perform that song live a couple of times, and it just gets me every time. Because it's such a great song. And like I said, on clear vinyl. A dynamite record. There's a couple extra tracks on here, which are So-Called Friend and Half-Light, which are both good songs. Especially So-Called Friend. Really cool song. Half-Light is a mellow tune. If you're in the mood for it, it'll deliver, but it still does deliver. Oh, and I ordered the record. They actually sent this little postcard of Steven Wilson. I always thought that was a nice picture, so I always keep it with the album when I package them. So, yeah, this was the first album I bought when it first came out on CD. This started my obsession with Porcupine Tree, this album. I was a hardcore fan after listening to this album for the first time. hardcore fan. I was obsessed with the band at this point. They were my favorite band. They were, to me, they were like the only band that gets it now, or that gets me now. Like these guys really understand what I'm looking for in music, and it really gets delivered on this record. Still one of my favorite Porcupine Tree albums to spin, because it's such an enjoyable 2-record set. Can't say more about it. Plus the faster songs like Halo and Shallow. They're the more commercial sounding records, or songs I should say. As close to a commercial as Porcupine Tree gets. They're enjoyable as can be. Alright, we're going to end with another all-time favorite band of mine, which is Rush. Like everybody else, my favorite Rush album is Moving Pictures. Going off of how blown away I was the first time I heard it, I still remember when I first heard Moving Pictures. I thought it was the best album ever. So I spun my Japanese pressing of it, which I got on a trip to LA not that long ago. And this is a really great pressing of the record. Really great pressing. It sounds so good. It's right up there with the remastered vinyl that came out a few years ago. It sounds just as good as it, if not better than that. I mean, these Japanese pressings, they really do a good job on it. And the Obi strip even looks badass. Look at that. Of course, we all know the great songs on here. I love listening to the Camera Eye. To me, that just sounds great. It's a great vinyl sounding song to me. I don't know why. I really don't know why I see it that way, but I do. It's just a perfect song. And it ends with a great song, Vital Signs. Vital Signs is a killer ending to this album. We all know the classics. I won't go over those, but the classic songs. But, oh, such an enjoyable listen. Can't get over that one. And I'm going to end it with the very last studio album Rush put out, which was Clockwork Angels. Took me a while to revisit this one, and I'm glad I did, because this is a killer album. They know how to make... This was a great album. It was their last studio record, and they really went out big, because there's not one weak track on this entire record. And this is also an album that will take you on a voyage. It's a good journey album. And of course, they couldn't have picked a better song to end this record with, In the Garden. One of my favorite Rush songs, period. Beautiful lyrics, a beautiful arrangement. Neil Peart really wrote some amazing lyrics for the song The Garden. I love listening to that song. I even have the 10-inch colored picture disc that came out on Record Store Day probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, probably even longer than that. And it contained the studio version of The Garden, and the B-side had the live version of The Garden. It's a gorgeous song. It's a gorgeous song. It sounds like a song that's saying goodbye. It's a good song to say goodbye to. If you're going to say goodbye to your fans, like this is the last album, this will be the last song on the last album, it's a perfect way to say goodbye. That's how I view that song. It's a beautiful way to say goodbye. And it just makes me miss Neil Peart all over again. It does. It really makes me miss him. I wish he was still around. I wish Rush was still touring. However, they wouldn't be touring right now, because no one is. But it always makes you feel good knowing those guys are still out there. And now, one of them has passed away, and that's it for the band. It's sad, but we still have the records to remember by. All right, that's it. That's what I've been listening to for the last, I think, week and a half, 2 weeks. Please leave me some comments. I hope everyone is staying healthy. I hope everyone's doing well and staying at home. Staying safe, staying healthy, and eventually we'll find our way out of this, and little by little get back to normal life. But I hope everyone's doing great out there. Please leave a comment just to say hello. Really miss hearing from you guys. So that'll do it from here, and I'll see you at the next video.